When I teach this course on venture capital and entrepreneurship at IIM Bangalore, in my pre-class survey for MBA students, I asked this question. If you must start a startup today and there are only 4 possible options, which option would you choose? What would you choose? If these are the only 4 options and you must start a startup right now for some reason, what would you choose to start? A restaurant, a school, an e-commerce company, or a business consulting company? Here are the survey responses from a recent class I taught. 40% of the students would start a restaurant, 19% would start a school, 25% would start an e-commerce company, and 17% would start a business consulting company. Now, I covered this in an earlier video. 75% of my class comprises students who rate themselves very highly on their determination to succeed in their professional careers. So these answers are coming from students who are determined to create a large impact in their lifetime. So let's find a broad back-of-the-envelope method to estimate the impact that each of these 4 choices would create. Firstly, what do we mean by the impact of a business? I covered this in an earlier video. I define social impact as impact on everyone and not just on poor people. And because I use this definition, it implies that the best metric to measure the social impact of a business is simply its revenue. Secondly, let's assume that you started one of these 4 startups and ran it successfully for 5 years. And in these 5 years, everything went as per your plan. So now, after 5 years of everything going as per your plan, what would your revenue be if you had started a school? How will you estimate the school's revenue at this point? Can you think of a very simple method? Well, how many students would have enrolled at the school after 5 years? Maybe about 500. And how much would the average annual fee be? About $10,000. So the revenue would be 500 multiplied by $10,000, which is $5 million. Next, how would you estimate the restaurant's revenue after 5 years of success? Well, how many customers would be eating there on an average day? About 300. And what would be the average order value? About $15. So the revenue would be 300 multiplied by 15, which is $1.6 million. Now, you may have made different assumptions about the number of customers, number of students, annual fee, etc., and would have arrived at different revenue numbers. And that's fine. The exact numbers here do not matter. The methodology matters. Moving on to the business consulting company, how would you estimate its revenue after 5 years of success? You can assume that there would be 3 partners, 3 principals, and 6 associates, all earning a different fee per hour of engagement, and you can assume that everybody would be engaged by clients for 40 hours every week, which is 160 hours every month. So if you multiply everything together, you will get the annual revenue as $1.1 million. Next, how would you estimate the revenue of the e-commerce company? And to make it easy, assume that it is a shoe e-commerce company in India that only sells shoes on its website. How would you make this estimate? You will have to do this one differently. You will have to start at the top of the market. How many shoes are sold in India in a year? About 800 million pairs of shoes. And if the shoe e-commerce company succeeded over 5 years, then what would its market share be? Maybe 1%. So it would sell about 8 million shoes every year. And what is the average price of a pair of shoes in India? About $10. If you multiply these numbers together, you will get the annual revenue as $80 million. Notice that this is tens of times more than the revenue we estimated for the school, for the restaurant, and for the consulting company. Also notice the difference in the methodologies that we use to estimate revenue. For the first 3, we started at a unit like a student or a food order or a partner and estimated revenues by multiplying the number of units we can get in 5 years to the amount of money we could get from each unit. This methodology is called bottom-up market sizing. Compare it to how we handle the estimate for the shoe e-commerce company. We started with the entire market in India and multiplied it with a market share number to get the number of shoes we can sell. This methodology is called top-down market sizing. What I would like you to remember from this is that when you make market size calculations for your startup, if a top-down approach is not obvious and you are having to rely only on a bottom-up approach, you may need to make a radical change to how you are thinking about your startup so that you make a large impact on society. You need to think of a meta approach so you can impact the entire market and not just a few people. So, if you were thinking of creating a school and wanted to create a larger impact, you may want to instead create something like Coursera or Udemy, so the lessons are relevant for everyone in the world and not just a small area in a city. If you were thinking of starting a restaurant, you may want to instead think about starting services like Blue Apron or dark kitchens like Rebel Foods or a franchisor like McDonald's to bring your food and your ideas to everyone in the world and not just a few people in a limited area. If you were thinking about starting a consulting company, you may instead want to build something like Upwork or Fiverr to organize the work of other consultants and to get them regular consulting jobs so that your ideas become relevant to everyone in the world and not just a few people whom you directly employ. This is the end of our first course on belief systems. I hope you found value in some of the frameworks that we discussed. Let's meet again in our next course of this specialization, the Venture Capital Business Model. Hey there, I'm KJ Saxena, founder of Relentless VC. The video you just watched is part of the Venture Capital and Entrepreneurship specialization, which is available absolutely for free on relentless.ventures. Go check it out. If you're a tech startup founder and want to raise money from us, you should apply on our website. Lastly, if you like this video, do subscribe and share it with your friends.